Alright, so it is time to modify the opponent Coinflip screens, and to do this we will need a new program called Tilemap Studio. It's very, very solid, and of course we're going to need Advanced Palette Editor, Hex Editor, HXD, Tilemol, and Photoshop or GIMP. So the first thing you need to know is that when it comes to these images, they're actually stored in small tiles. That's not the right one. So this image is not stored like this in memory. It's stored as these tiles all in one long string. And so something you need to know is that there's also a section of memory that tells the game how to lay the tiles out. So that's going to be the map address, which tells the game how to put these out on the screen. Another thing you need to know is that you can see when it has the palette here, each tile is only going to be able to use one row of palette. So for instance, if we pull up the palettes, you see we have these four that are reddish that correlate to the top, four blue ones correlate to the bottom, and each tile can only use one horizontal row. So we're going to have to include that in our modification. And the last thing you need to know is that there can only be 256 tiles. So if you look back here, we have 256 tiles, which is FF. If we go to 257, it's going to put us at 0, 0. So there's only one byte that the game uses to identify. So if we have a tile here, it's going to conflict with our first 0, 0. So the tile maps can only be that big. I'll just quickly show you one. It's too big. And you can see this was FF. You can see it up here too. That this is going to be too many tiles. So that's going to be probably the hardest part about doing these, is reducing them to the correct size. You can do stuff like, you can take this tile, put it here, here, and do that to reduce your amount of tiles and stuff like that. Or you can flip them horizontally, or horizontally and vertically. But yeah, that's going to be probably the hardest part, is reducing the total amount of tiles. So now that we've got that covered, let's go ahead and open Photoshop and get started. So I'm going to include a tile overlay. This gives you a way to modify and look at the tiles that are going to be like on the screen, so you can sort of base some of your decisions off that. And here's a copy of the ROM. So let's go ahead and open with Photoshop, and I'm just going to create a new layer. And of course you want to have a green color on your foreground palette, and I usually reduce this to pretty low. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to find our image. This is going to be the front part of the image for me. And like I said, it can't be too big on screen. So what I'm going to do, sort of put it off to the side here. And do also note that when it comes to these, this coin toss selection bar will take up the top two rows. So you put something up here, it's going to be covered, so you can kind of save yourself some tiles. Something like this should probably be fine. And yeah, we can rasterize it. That'll be fine. So the next thing we need to do is we need to separate it into 4 color groups. You could just make it 16 colors total, but that will kind of reduce the quality of your ending image. So we're going to just separate it into 4 colors. So you can immediately see we have a lot of green, white, and sort of tan blue. I'm just going to go ahead and start doing the green. Keep this layer selected. And I'm just going to select all the tiles that have the green. And you don't have to be too perfect on this, to be honest. It will help you get sort of a better image, but it's really not going to be too bad if you don't do a perfect job. So let's just try to go for mostly green tiles. And Get them all selected. So that should be sort of okay. Now what you want to do is you can copy this layer if you feel like you're going to mess up or want a couple tries at it, but I like to do a Control X and then actually let's go ahead and grab this one too. Control X, Control Shift, Velcro. So now you can see we've got that one sort of removed. Now let's go ahead and target these sort of lighter color feather colors. And wait 1 second. And that should be good. We can go ahead and cut those as well. Now we will go grab some of the skin tone colors. And that should be good as well. And you see we're left with sort of green bluish. Okay, so now you can see we've got our image separated into 4 color groups. And I usually like to separate them out. Usually, but not always, the game will start going horizontally here. And the first tile it encounters will be like here. We're going to leave this at the front, right? And then we want to look for this tile. We'll put this second. We'll look for this tile. Third. So I like to put them in the order which they occur horizontally. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to reduce them all the 4 color groups to 16 colors. You need to hide the background layer or else it's going to mess up your colors. So first thing we're going to do, image mode index color. You want to save a layer for transparency. Again, you can use these, either one of these, but you want to save a layer for transparency. Next, you want to go to the color table, replace that transparent color with green. Hit OK. So that gives you this. Next thing you want to do is you want to select everything and you want to copy it and then go back to the layer order or right before you index a color. Here, I usually like to go up top and do a Control Shift Velcro. So you see that kind of put our first color group in the pixelated form. Then you need to go to index color again. You can remove the transparent layer, so it's 16 colors. And go to mode, color table. What you're going to do is you're going to see how this already selected. You're going to copy this. And then you're going to select the green background to swap these layers. Hit Control V. And then you want to save this. We'll call this palette 1. You can hit OK. You don't typically need to copy and save this. So what you can do is you can go back to the paste in place. And that first one is the first layer is kind of different. The other ones we will go back and do an extra step, but we're done with this first layer. So now hide this, go to the second layer, image mode index color, leave a layer for transparency, go back, color table, and put that green color. Hit OK. Copy this, go back to the paste in place, and Control Shift V. And we actually need another version of this. So what we want to do is go to mode, index color, remove that transparent to leave it 16. Mode color table. And what you're also going to do here is you're going to copy that, replace it with green, go to the green and paste it there. Now we can save this as palette 2. Hit OK. So this part's a little bit tricky. What you want to do is you want to go mode, RGB color, then go mode, index color, hit OK. And then you go to color table, and now you load in palette 1 and hit OK. And you see that's going to mess up your image, but that is OK. So now you can select everything, copy this, go back to your paste in place, and Control-Shift-V. So as you can see, for this second color group, we have 2 versions of the final product. And yeah, the first one, we only have one. First layer is a little bit different, but the other layers from here will have 2 different colors or versions. So now let's go to the third one, image mode index color, leave a layer for transparency, image mode color table, replace that with green. Okay. Go ahead and copy all this, paste that, image mode index color, I'm sorry. Take off transparency. And now what you want to do is the same thing, copy this, replace it with green, go to the green, Velcro, hit OK, and save the palette. So now we got that saved, hit OK. Go to image mode RGB, image mode index color, hit OK. And now same thing, color table, and load in palette 1 again. And that's going to give you your scuffed image. Go back and Control-Shift-V. So you can see now we also have a scuffed version of this. And we do that again for the 4th layer. Okay. Copy all this. Index color. Go ahead and replace it. And save that palette. And now you want to hit OK, convert it back, and do your color table, and then load in palette 1 again. Now go to the paste in place. Okay, so now we've got all of our layers. We're going to go through and remove the green. So what we can do is we can select the green here, delete it, select the green here, delete it, and go to here, select the green, delete it, select the green here again, delete that, select the green, make sure, yeah, go here, delete that, and then for this last layer you can leave the green. So if we go through and enable visibility, you can see we have this sort of scuffed image, which we're going to go ahead and save. We'll call this HD scuffed. And then you want to hide the scuffed versions. You see this is what it's going to look like in memory. We can go save as, PNG, call it HD normal. Okay, so now we got all that figured out, we can go ahead and move on to the next step, which is going to be our Tilemap Studio. So what you want to do is this actually supports dragging and dropping. And just to show you how this works, whenever we import an image, it's going to spit us out 2 files. It's going to spit us out the tiles all in a string, and then it's going to give us that file or section of values that tells the game how to lay it out. So whenever we import the normal, we don't actually need the tiles, we only need the way the game lays it out. So Let's go ahead and drag this in. I'm going to call this HD normal render. And you can leave this as 4BBP, index and tile image, and hit OK. So as you can see, this is not the image we're going to use, but you can see it's gone through and marked the different palettes for each tile. So if I pull back up the thing, you can see we got this tile map, which we don't need, and then we have the bin file that tells the game how to lay it out. So now what we want to do is we can close it, unload this, and go to HD Scuffed, drag it in. We'll call this HD Scuffed Render. And same settings, hit OK. And then now we have HD Scuff Render Bin. We won't need this one, we only need this. So now that we've got all of our stuff ready, let's go ahead and go into Advanced Palette Editor. Let's open our ROM. And let's go to our worksheet with all of our info. And what you want to go to is the top image palettes and copy that. Load from offset and hit load. So you see these are the Karibo palettes. Now let's go ahead and bring in so we're gonna start with our palette 1 and go ahead and hit replace. Go to the next one, palette 2, replace, palette 3, replace, and then palette 4, replace. So we can go through them real quick, make sure they're all changed, and we're done here. So next thing we're going to do is we are going to open HXD, and we are going to take our ROM and open it. We're going to navigate to the Tilemap and hit Control G, Velcro. See, that brings our cursor right where it needs to be. Now we can bring in the normal version of the bin file. We want to open this with HXD, and we want to hit Control A, copy, and then do a paste right. And we can save that. And so we've updated the section of memory that tells the game how to lay the tiles out. And now we want to go in here and open our ROM. We want to navigate to the top image tiles. I've got you can set a bookmark there, but you can just put that address. That's going to bring us to the first tile of the Karibo map. We also need to import the palette. So this is the palette value, but it wants the decimal version. So go ahead and get the decimal value and go to palette, import from this file, Control V. I usually put 64 here, but you only need to put 16. But it's going to load in all 4 of those rows. And now what we want to do is we want to go to Edit, Paste From. And you want to navigate to where you were. And so now we want the scuffed render, because remember that's the scuffed tile set. And we're going to load it in. And you want to make sure, you see how this white line's here? You want to make sure that you can see that and that nothing's getting cut off on the top or bottom. And then you can just click in the gray to place it. You can scroll through. You can see that our other colors should be lined up here, as you can see. And yeah, it's going to be working correctly. So now you can save this, and you can open up your ROM again. And we want to drag this in. And then go to our Karibo. Boom. So as you can see, this is going to be how it's loaded into memory. Sometimes you might have a tile or two that's messed up. You can go through, make sure you go to the correct color group, and then you can get your little paintbrush here and do your modifications. But as you can see, we got that top image down. You can see that also our palettes are replaced. So that's how we do the top. I'm going to show you how to do the bottom, but give me 1 sec to prepare that. Okay, so I went through and sort of skipped some of the steps to show you how to make the image, but I've got my 4 color groups. I've got my regular and scuffed image. I do like to go through and close these out. Sometimes you can save something from a previous sort of state of the ROM, so you want to just close everything out. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back into Tilemap Studio. You can close this. You can unload the tiles, and what you want to do is, again, bring in your regular. Let's actually go ahead and rename this to normal, and we'll rename this to scuffed. So what you want to do is you want to bring in your normal. You can put normal render. And so this is the important part for doing the bottom one. You want to put your starting palette at 4. That's going to tell it to go through and it's going to start the code for the palettes after the top images so that you can keep it the way the game uses it. So the tricky part about this is you want to go through. Again, it's going to give us that file that tells the game how to lay it out. You can see that for the other ones, when it lists it out horizontally, it would usually go like 4. This would be 5 because it's the next tile it encounters. But you can see this goes from 4 to 7 to 5. So you are going to have to rearrange the palettes in order to reflect that. So what we're going to do is, this is saying that the second palette that because again, I order them in the way they encounter, so we can rename this bottom palette 2 to bottom palette 7. The third one will be 5, so we can name this to 5. Okay, so this is going to be 6. And this is going to be 4. So this is the way we've got it laid out, the way that it's going to give us the palettes. You can see that this one used a lot of tiles, but let's go ahead and close it, unload it. And then now let's bring in our scuffed version. Again, we can call it scuffed render. Since we're not going to use the bin from this export, this doesn't matter as much, but you can just leave it at 4. Hit OK. And then that's going to generate our Tilemap image. So now we've got those ready. Let's go into Advanced Palette Editor. And these will be the ones right after. Let me just go ahead and verify it. So we've got the bottom image palettes. Go to APE. Load it. And yeah, you can see this is where we're going to start at. So now let's bring in our palettes and sort of load them in the correct order. You can hit replace here, double check. Place. Replace. And hit replace. So now we can make sure we got all of them replaced and we're done with this. Let's go back into HXD and let's go ahead and open our ROM here again. let's go and bring our normal render bin. Open it with HXD. And this time we're actually going to go to the bottom image tile map. And G. So that brings our cursor here. Go ahead and Control A, Control C, and do your paste right. Okay, so we got the palettes, we got the tile map updated. Now let's go into Tilemap. Open our file again. We now need to import the bottom palette. Palette. Import from this file. Paste it there. That's going to bring in our colors from that section, and we also need to navigate to the tiles themselves. And go to navigate, go to, paste it, and you see that's going to bring us to the bottom image. So now we can go to paste from and go to our scuffed render. I like to expand this, make sure that the lines, you can see the bottom and the side lines, and you can click in the gray to place it. So as you can see, this one has the hair color, so the hair color looks good. This one's going to be involved with whatever. You can see we got some of the body stuff and then the wing stuff. So this looks good. We're going to save it, and then now we can just reboot our ROM. I've got the objects disabled still, so boom. As you can see, we've got both of them modified in there correctly. Modifying these top ones, it's kind of like a really tiny tile set for these two screens, and yeah, that's how you do the opponent coin flip screens. You'll probably have to again make a little icon for whatever your opponents are going to be, and you can change the colors of these. You can change the coin image, but those are way easier than these. So that's pretty much how you do that. I'm going to be going over some other graphical stuff that's kind of like weird that I didn't cover, but that is how you do that. Oh yeah, I'll also be doing how to change the names, so look forward to that. If you know an easier way to do this, hook a brother up. All right, y'all. Okay, so I showed you how to do it the hard way using the 4 palettes. This time we're going to do it using 16 colors. It's going to come out a lot less pretty, but it can, if you're like lazy or you only need 16 colors, this is going to be the way to do it. So we're first just going to make our image again. We're going to index it, 16 colors, leave a layer for transparency. Let's go ahead and grab a green color. And now let's go to mode and replace that green color. And we can hit save. I'll call this BGPal01. Hit OK. And now let's go ahead and save this as a PNG. We'll call it background. Yeah, that's good. Now let's go back to move. This time we're going to just do it again normally. Make sure that background layer is toggled off. And let's go ahead and use adaptive. We can do the same thing. Color table. Grab our green. Hit OK. We can save it. Actually, let's save it as FG01. That's fine. Hit OK, and now let's go ahead and save this. Background, we'll call this foreground. Okay, so now let's go ahead and go into our Tilemap Studio, and let's drag in our, we'll do the foreground first. We'll call this foreground render. Make sure it's at 0 for the foreground, 0 on the palette. Boom, and we're done there. We can close it and unload it. And you can also just click here and let's do our background. Background. Render, and again for the background you have to start at palette 4. Okay, looks good. Boom, and we are done here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go update the palettes. Can open our ROM and let's go back to our sheet and let's grab our top palette and ACT, so foreground, and we're going to have to swap these two as per usual. Hit replace. The bottom palette is at 22C. They're going to be following right after, so I'm just going to navigate there and we're going to do background palette, and again copy that, replace it with green, and then paste it. Hit replace. So we have both of them modified. Now let's go ahead and go into HXD. Let's just drag in our ROM. We can first navigate to our top tile map and go to there. And now let's go get our, so we're doing the top, so it's going to be the foreground. Control A, copy it, and then Control B to paste right. I'm also just going to do the bottom tile map just to show you. I'm going to close this one and let's grab our background. Can drag that in, select everything, copy it, and do a paste right there as well. So we've got the palettes fixed, we've got the tile maps fixed. Now let's just go and modify the tiles themselves. So let's first go to the top, the foreground. We'll navigate there. And let's also import our palette. Very important that you import the palette so that the colors get transferred over correctly. We only need 16 this time. Hit OK. This looks like our Kenochi palette. Let's do a paste from, and we're going to do the foreground render. Again, make sure the sides are, the white lines are visible and that the width matches. And again, when you click over here, it should look correct. If it puts the colors in wrong, you probably did it wrong somewhere. So let's go ahead and save that. Now we can go to our bottom image tiles. Can go to there. And let's go import this palette. And import from. Hit OK, so this looks correct. And now let's paste from our background render. Boom. So that looks correct. So now let's just open our ROM, make sure that we did it right. Perfect. So as you can see, this is what we want. The next thing I want to show you for this quick example is you see we have the top bar that's kind of ruining our vibe. And I'm also going to show you how to modify this little box right here. So I put together a ROM hacking resource. This is very under construction at the moment, but I've got the top bar and the Coinflip box, the locations, and the palette locations. So first thing I want to show you is for the coin and box. I'm just going to copy this and we're going to go to this offset. So you probably have to readjust the width. It's pretty wide. and you can see that this is our coin and selection box. So what I want to do is I want to make this outer box transparent. So pretty much what we're going to do is we're going to get our green, and I'm just going to make it all green. And let's go ahead and hit save, and let's restart it. So yeah, you can see we made it transparent. You could also change the colors, and you can change the color of this yellow. You can do so by, again, you could, let's just say you can import the palette, go in, you could change the palette in Advanced Palette Editor, and that's not correct. You could change the colors here and then import it here and then change the colors, etc. You can also add maybe some little accents if you want. Let's see here. Actually, let's grab this color, and you can maybe add like some little cool corner accenting. And you could change the colors and stuff like that. And you know, do some cool little stuff like that. The top bar is a little bit different because it's in a 8 bits per pixel. So let's go ahead and look at that. Let's copy this. We can navigate, go to. You see it's not coming up correctly. And can we get the other? It's fine. You're gonna have to go to View Codec 8BPP, and you can sort of erase this completely. You can modify it. Let's actually just, yeah, let's just do like that. See how that looks. Yeah, something like that. You can also, let's see, let's undo that and save it. And then let's actually go into the palette here, and let's import it. And you see these are the colors, so if we wanted to like maybe make it blue, let's see what we want to do. We'll make the darkest part something like this. We're gonna have to save that somewhere. And so you have to like copy these over. EB7F. Like EB7F, and I don't know, another color like 4 or something. Yeah, let's just leave it like that. And you could boom, you could change the colors up there, or you could remove it completely. Either way, you have some cool stuff to do if you'd like. Let's just replace it all. Save it. Boom. So you can do some cool stuff like that. And oh yeah, so the last thing I want to show you is the coin toss selection. I'm quickly going to close and reopen this so we don't save in some previous old data. And let's go back to our resource and say like the coin selection test. We can go to there, and you can see we have our coin toss selection. Important thing, if you want to do something cool here, is you want to stay over here if you're typing text. So you could say like, you know, ooh, your bulge. How do you spell bulge? Okay, so the important thing is you don't want to hit backspace here. You want to just arrow back. And if you want to put decimals, you can put, I'm sorry, periods, 1, 2, 3, and then to end it, you need to put a 0, 0. So you could do something like that. You save it, and now we can, yeah, so that's how you do it. I'm not really sure how to get it uncentered. And yeah, some of these other, like the red here, it's going to be using this first row. So don't be fooled by these red and blue. And these might affect other things, like I believe like the yellows related to the stars on like in the card viewer. So if you modify some of these top ones, they might mess some other stuff up, but that's going to be how you do some of these graphics and stuff like that. And you can also change the heads, tails, correct miss, and I've got some of these laid out here. So yeah, I'll be updating some more of this stuff in the future. You could also, like in theory, use the top bar as another layer. It is reduced to 16 colors, so that is something to keep in mind if you want to do something even crazier. The top bar uses this row, so you could replace these palettes and make another tile map. I've got the information up here. So yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to the Coinflip screens. Yeah, I'll be going over names and stuff next, like I said, but hopefully you have some fun with this one. All right.